Hello and welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, my good friend Jim Stam. How you doing, brother?
I'm all right, Gary. I'm a little disappointed neither of us were protected in the Rule 5, but you know, I'm getting over it. I thought we had a shot.
Oh man, I ain't been protected since I was 16. So joining us on the show this week is our good friend from the Bridge to Buctober podcast, Josh Booth. Jim and I have both been on he and his brother's show a couple times, and we figured it was a good time to get Josh back on. We always have a good time talking to him. So Josh, how you doing, brother?
Doing great.
Yeah, you sound mellow. You sound mellow as hell.
Yeah.
He's got this like cool vibe going on behind him too. Like if you get a chance to see it on video, man, he's just swanky there.
He does look like somebody that would be all about having mushrooms legalized. So I'm just I'm ready to go. And as a Pirates fan, I sympathize. I think about taking psychedelics at least 80 times a year. So let's start with the obvious, right? Let's start with a recap of the Rule 5 decisions. I think this is an easy place to start. Everybody and their mother had predictions. Jim and I already kind of discussed, and I listened to your show too, Josh. I think we all did pretty well, really. I mean, and the Pirates made it easy. Endy Rodriguez was a lock. Mike Burrows was a lock. I don't think I saw a single person suggest that either of those two shouldn't be protected. Ben Cherington made it easy by saying a handful. And that made me instantly know it was going to be more than those two, so that made me kind of stretch a little bit, because I might have stuck to my guns and thought those were the only two they should have protected. They ended up protecting, in addition to those two, Colin Selby and Jared Triolo. We'll get into the cuts in a minute. Did anything surprise you on the protection side of things? I know that in the piece that Craig and I wrote on Inside the Bucs Basement, both had mentioned Colin Selby. We both completely ignored Jared Triolo. So, Josh, I'll start with you. What did you think, man? Everything kosher here?
Jared Triolo certainly surprised me. I didn't expect to see that. Colin Selby, there was a lot of buzz. I heard that, so I heard people saying it. I didn't have either one of those. The other two are easy. MLB.com did a thing that said in the last 8 years, all 88 top 100 prospects that were eligible for the Rule 5 were added to their roster. So there was no way that wasn't going to happen. And all of them, I think 14 or 15 just this year, all of them were added. So
the last time it didn't happen, I can't remember the year. I want to say it was 2010. The Atlanta Braves accidentally left one of their top 100 players off, and their turn came up in the Rule 5, and they selected their own guy.
Oh my god!
And I can't remember his name, but it's the only instance of it that I can think of.
Name?
Yeah,
I've never heard that. But hey, listen, thank God it wasn't the Pirates. Like, that's all I think about when I hear something like that. It wasn't the Pirates.
Yeah. Well, you're dead right, Jim. I mean, because it definitely sounds like a Pirates thing. But while we're at it, what did you think, man? I mean, we didn't discuss Jared Triolo, but What did you think of everything? Everything on par, or anybody you left off that you think should have been on?
No, I think we both thought that we both felt good about Nunes not making it. We went back and forth a little bit about Gorski. I know there's some trepidation there. I'm still okay with that. I know his name's popping up some. Let me get back to who they did protect, though. The Triolo thing, man, it really – I've tried to make sense of it afterwards even, you know. And I don't understand it. I just don't think that is a guy that a lot of teams are just going to go out there and want to pluck from you.
Let me chuck a couple theories at you guys.
Well, let me just finish up with Selby and just say the only thing I will say about Selby is, look, pitchers, you don't have to convince me. If you think you have something there, protect them. But yeah, Triolo, that one I still afterwards, even trying to dig into it a little bit more numbers-wise, I just didn't see it.
So here's my theories on why a player like Jared Triolo gets picked here. For one, the entire league now, because of the DH, is no longer using pinch hitters. But they are using defensive replacements a lot. And Jared Triolo might be, and this is arguable, but he might be the most talented defender in anybody's system. He's a Gold Glove winner already in the minors, and last year he was again their defender of the year. He's really very close to Brian Hayes as far as third baseman go, which is saying something. And he's probably their most talented shortstop. It's also possible that he is their most talented center fielder. And I'm kind of not exaggerating. He's that good. The bat came along last year, so I kind of understand protecting him, because I think with that little bit of a change, I think you could see a team picking him up because they need defensive replacements for late innings, and he's the perfect kind of guy for that. And the other thing I'd add on there is very high likelihood they're going to trade Kevin Newman at some point this year. And they don't really have another really good shortstop if they need one. Jared Triolo would be that. Those are my options. Either of you have thoughts on that, Josh?
I do. I have a comp for you for Jared Triolo. Somebody that he reminds me of a good bit. Now, the actual like defensive, the other guy maybe doesn't quite stack up, but 6'3", 212 he's listed at. He's going to be 25. Reminds me a lot of a guy who was protected at the same sort of time, same age, college bat, 6'3", 210. 2 pounds different on the what they're listed as, and that's Jordy Mercer.
Nah,
it reminds me a lot of that. The same kind of age type thing. Mercer was like a year ahead of him because Triolo didn't have a 2020. So you could have seen the same sort of path. A little bit different. Mercer was more of a shortstop, and probably not as good defensive, but for me, it's like, that's what I see. Some of the numbers are pretty similar. Jordy may have had a little bit more pop, but I mean, he turned that opportunity into 10 years.
I mean, if you're protecting somebody that turns into an 8-year major league player, then you probably have made a good decision, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, he played almost 1,000 games, 6.9 WAR for his career. Like, nothing outstanding, but he was a good Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, and you could do worse.
I mean, of course, Jordy did that at the major league level too. So I think it's an interesting comp. Am I being swayed a lot here? Probably not. I think it's a little bit cart before the horse for the Pirates with some of the other things that I would be a little bit more concerned about them protecting. But hey, it's one guy. Again, if they feel strongly about it, if there is something else in the works, like Gary mentioned with Newman, or they feel there will be, okay, I can buy it. I don't
think it's more complicated than they legitimately thought he would get taken and didn't want him to be. And I kind of can't disagree. I really do think there would be some takers based on that defensive replacement thing. Same reason I think there will be takers for Kevin Newman when they try to trade him. So, We should probably take a quick break, come back. Let's finish up talking about who they got rid of to make room for all these excellent superstars in the making. And we'll move on from there. All right, and we're back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Jim and Josh with me, Gary, and we're going to finish talking about what the Pirates did with the Rule 5 protections and who they got rid of now. We'll probably have to touch on who else we think they should have protected because let's just say it got heated in the break. But to make room on the 40-man, they cut Tyler Heineman. So what? They cut Jeremy Beasley, Junior Fernandez. Not surprised by either of those. I was a little shocked to see them cut ties with Manny Benuelos, who was good last year. Good. And it leaves them with absolutely no lefties on their 40-man, which makes no sense to me whatsoever, especially considering the fact they're going to have to go and get some. Manny Benuelos was legitimately good. You had a success story from the waiver wire. I don't understand moving on from him, but Jim, what did you think of the cuts? Did any of them really bother you?
Not a ton. I mean, Benuelos somewhat. I do think I'm not. Look, the way the roster's constructed, obviously, I thought they'd keep him. He surprised me a little last year. Do I think it's necessarily sustainable with him? I don't know. I'm not super upset. I think fodder is a good word to use, and now that we all know what it means, and it's just I'm okay. I'm teasing you, Josh. I'm okay with it.
I mean, I'm not turning into the Incredible Hulk over it, but I guess for me, when you get somebody better that's going to replace his spot and what he does on the roster, okay, get rid of him. But until then, I just didn't see a purpose in getting rid of him, especially when I feel like they have at least 8 or 9 other guys I could have easily moved on from instead.
It's fair.
So, Josh, what did you think? I saw a lot of head shaking when I brought up Manny, so...
Well, I think he's the talk here. I think Junior Fernandez we knew eventually. Heineman's a little bit. I think I would have went with Sanchez before Heineman, but we haven't seen Sanchez, so I get it. Beasley's good. He would have went before Bo Sulcer for me, but either way. But Manny's the thing, and without any left-handed pitchers on the roster is the thing that got me. The fact that he was mostly good for the Pirates and not anywhere else. I thought that he would stick around, but it does kind of raise the question of if they made no adjustments and he just had good fortune, and I don't mean good fortune as if you earn it, right? But if you didn't make any adjustments to get that success, then maybe that's just telling them that they're not confident that it's going to continue. He hasn't been good anywhere else. So what made him good in Pittsburgh? If they don't know, then chances are he's not going to be good. Now, if they knew, then this doesn't make any sense. If they made an adjustment, I don't know why. I
disagree with that. Yeah.
If they made an adjustment, I would say then why would I let him go?
And I think sometimes I just get in the mode of like, and God knows we've seen it in Pittsburgh, is you get a guy, he doesn't look too bad, and then as the more he gets exposed and the more he pitches, and then it kind of reverts back to form. And so that's why I didn't get upset with him, or not upset, but so I just, is that fair to him? I don't know. It's how I view those types of guys.
I just remember very similar situation. Sam Howard. They brought him in. He was a lefty. I felt like he was going to be a mainstay in the bullpen for a minute there. He was striking everybody out. He just looked unhittable at times.
Yep.
In fact, I was starting to think like, oh, there's our 7th inning guy, like Sam
Justin
Howard.
Wilson.
And then Trans Am Sam, as you like to call him, Jim, fell off the
R.I.P.
face of the earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
He just fell off the face of the earth. And, maybe that's the same kind of thing they saw coming with Manny. But even so, this all left-handed hitters and no left-handed pitchers thing with the Pirates is not funny anymore. I mean, it's time for them to figure it out.
It's
let's
not funny, but me
transition.
and Jim laughed.
Let's transition a little bit into, who we think might have been a potential miss as far as protections go. And again, I don't want this to be like a big, we're trying to like stoke fear out there. I don't think it's that big of a deal for the most part. The obvious names out there are Nunez and Gorski, and Tanaj Thomas is probably another one. Cody Bolton. I'd say those 4 are probably where I kind of land on other guys they could have protected. But I don't think that I need to take anybody off of the list of people they did protect to snag any of them. There's plenty of people we could move on from on the roster. Any of those you're really especially concerned are going to get taken? I mean, for me, I think Cody Bolton is a guy that I could see sticking in a bullpen. Tanaj Thomas is a guy I can see people taking a swing at and getting returned. But aside from that, Gorski's probably my top concern. I personally have him as the 3rd best bat available in the whole league.
Yeah, listen, it's a roll of the dice, especially in a organization that is still searching for power at the levels, right? I mean, it's still something we need to see more of. I worry about pitchers more because I think teams are more desperate for it, and B, you can hide them better with Rule 5 stuff. So Bolton maybe is a guy. I think the thing you were saying, Gary, the difference is like Bolton could actually probably pitch some meaningful innings if he's healthy, right? He might have that ability right now. Yeah. And Thomas is kind of the opposite, is where you're trying to find him some very non-threatening situations to even try to get him some work.
Well, he's a former top 100 prospect. He can hit triple digits on the gun. Problem is he's Wild Thing. He doesn't know where it's going a lot of the time. But if you get the right pitching coach that thinks they can rein that in, and even if they decrease his velocity down to like a 97, 98 guy and get him in the zone again, he could be a wicked pitcher for somebody in the bullpen, but he's a project. It's going to take some work. And I think he has a real shot of getting selected. And I think Colin Selby would have as well. They're very similar, actually. I do think Selby's further along, but they're very similar. I think either of them could have gotten selected. I think Thomas just doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of sticking on a roster, at least not from what I've seen. So, Josh, what do you think, brother?
I think even if Thomas gets selected and stays with the team, I just think that's eventually you have to just say there's a lot of names here, and I think you're okay losing. I think you're okay losing Tanaj Thomas when you have several others. As far as that kind of stuff goes, if that's something like you said in the break, like be careful with the word worried. But Cody Bolton, for me, I keep going back to the age thing because 25 years old, like I think that as far as those things go, like you gotta show up at some point. And I think that's an age where I think you can make a jump like that. He hasn't pitched since 2019 until this year. And he did it as a starter, but like none of those were Not a lot of starts, but like as a starter. But even when he started, he wasn't going more than 4 innings, 3-4 innings. So
Yeah,
I
they were
think
definitely
that's
slow walking him, but I will say he was a top 10 prospect in this system not very long ago before all the injuries. A lot of people kind of forget that there was a time when he was in front of Mitch Keller and JT Brubaker as far as like pecking order for starting. I still think that's in there. As Jim said last week, the whip is still great. I mean, like there is something there with that kid. I find it hard to believe that everybody will pass on him. The only
I don't
reason I
think
think
so.
they might is because he has a real health concern issue. But if you can
I just
stash him in your bullpen, and I do think he can contribute enough to stick, you get yourself a free starter. And the Pirates, to me, are a team that cannot afford to be giving up starter depth. So that's why
exactly.
I probably would have protected Cody Bolton. But
Yeah, he was on my list for sure. And that's what I feel. As far as Gorski goes, I think you might be okay. His numbers from high A to double A, where he played basically the same amount of games, was huge difference in production. And I don't know if there's something behind that or not, or if it's just the fact that he was so much older than everybody in Greensboro and had 17 home runs in Greensboro and 6 in double A.
it's
And
that
is
ballpark, too.
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
that's a big,
Okay.
big,
So it's a big
big
deal.
factor.
But still, so then you could look at the numbers possibly being inflated. But if other teams see that, and he's also one of the older guys, 2 AAA plate appearances, I think I don't know that he gets picked up either. I'm pretty sure his slugging dropped like 300 points from one to the other, which includes doubles and triples when you talk about bigger ballparks too. So I don't know. I think Cody Bolton to me is a bigger concern to lose than Matt Gorski. Plus, the way Matt Frazier turned into in 2022, you know, you hope it's not the same for Gorski, but it very well could be.
Well, and Gorski's got that nagging quad injury, too. It just has not gone away. And it really limited him. He should have been back on the field a lot earlier as far as their expectations were. And then it recurred, and you only got those couple at bats in there.
So say
It's
that a
hard to
bunch
say.
more so that all the Cardinals guys and other teams guys can hear you say that, so that he doesn't get picked. That's they're listening, Gary.
Yeah, I think we're safe for teams like the Cardinals trying to pick up an everyday
Yeah.
position player.
Yeah.
But we should probably move on now to some guys that we could see being targeted in the Rule 5 draft, because there's a lot of decent players out there. There are a lot of people in that same position. We talked about earlier when we were saying like, oh, this guy's 24, 25 years old. Well, what's old in Major League Baseball has really changed, and COVID did it. COVID screwed this entire 2019 draft class. It really did. So many guys came in and played short season ball and then missed an entire year, developed on their own. Some of them did a better job of it than others. Came back in 2021, and teams were either really aggressive and jumped them an entire league to like get them back on schedule, or held them back and stayed true to like making them play the entire level. So you had a lot of 23-year-olds playing in high A, and you had a lot of 23-year-olds that should have had that high A experience that just got jumped right into double A and failed miserably and fell on their face. So I'm anxious to get COVID out of the way for Major League Baseball. This Rule 5 draft does that for me. I think I'm anxious to get back to thinking a 25-year-old in double A did something wrong, because that's not the case right now. You look through these lists and it's just recurring. It's every single one of them. Drafted somewhere in 2019. Exactly that format over and over and over again. And at some point you kind of just have to realize everybody's playing with the same deck here. So I have some guys identified. I'm going to kind of name them off and talk about them a little bit, and we'll banter about. And you guys have some as well, so this should be fun.
I'm interested to hear who you guys picked as well. So
yeah, so I'll start with pitchers because I think that's, again, really where you target for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So my favorite pitcher that's available right now is Eric Miller from Philadelphia. He was Philly's 4th-round selection in 2019. He's currently their number 7 prospect, and they left him unprotected. He's a big boy, 6'5", 240 pounds, and he's got a 3-pitch mix, fastball, curve, slider. He's been a starter, but he's probably going to transition to the bullpen. He's just a horse. I think he can hit 97 to 98 on the gun if you put him in the bullpen, and his slider is just wipeout stuff. 2022 in Double-A, 2.23 ERA, 1.16 WHIP, 44 Ks in only 36 innings. Triple-A wasn't nearly as kind to him, but it's a really, really small sample size of only 12 innings. Yeah, I think he's probably my top target, left-hander too.
Yeah, lefty was big. Lefty was big with him. Going back to like when we talk about things like Banuelos, is I'd rather take a shot at a guy like this. And then granted, it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1, and I get that, and I think everybody hopefully understands that.
Well, we're going to sign Taylor Rogers too.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I've got my FanDuel bet in on it, so that's easy money in Pittsburgh. But I like guys like that. I think he's obviously a need. He was one of my pitchers that I had on there too.
See, I'm glad we actually have some overlap because I don't feel crazy.
Yeah, I was looking at him too. I noticed that he because you said about moving him to the bullpen, and it seemed like that's what they did. He only made 7 starts of his 20 in Double-A, something like that. I think it was 20.
Right.
And then I got another one, but it was small sample in AAA, like you said.
I got another pitcher, unless one of you guys wants to jump in with one.
Go. Let me hear another one so that I can see if you
All right.
are on the same page.
I really like this guy too. Moises Lugo from San Diego. He's already a relief pitcher. They transitioned him there to kind of try to accelerate his path a little bit. And plus, he only has 2 pitches. He's never really been able to develop a third one, but he's got a 60 grade fastball and a 50 grade slider. So pretty good stuff. In 2022, he pitched in 39 games. All of them were relief except for one. 72.2 innings pitched. Total ERA was 3.22, 97 Ks, and a 1.25 WHIP. He hits 93 to 97 on the gun, and without that third pitch, I think he struggles against lefties. But another big boy too. So I like him. He's right-handed, but that's somebody that you could think about throwing in the pen.
That's a good name, man. I missed him. Josh,
he really hasn't had a bad year.
No, he's
19,
been good.
21, and 22, all good. I looked all over San Diego because I don't think they protected anyone. That roster is full. So I think that they just ran out of options there. And so, yeah, that's good. I did look at him. I didn't put him down, but.
Let me throw out. So let's. I like the pitch. I like the pitching part of this. So let's stick with that. Let me give you guys a name, and he's not sexy, but there's something. The more I looked at him, I'm like, I think this dude is just a pitcher, and he was affected by COVID, and then he had Tommy John surgery. Thaddeus Ward.
I have him
devil.
too.
Okay.
Yeah,
so the more
that's the only one I actually wrote down.
Okay. So the more you look at him, he wasn't highly drafted or touted, but all the dude has done is pitch really well. He was their he won the minor league pitcher of the year award in his first full season. Then COVID happened. Then Tommy John has happened. He's still their 15th rated best prospect, but then he came back and looked pretty good again late last year.
2.28 ERA and 51.1 innings pitched with 66 strikeouts and a 115 whip.
Yeah, and like he won't blow anybody away with like his fastball, but I think there's some maybe a little bit more room for improvement there as he gets further past Tommy John. But I think he's got like a good 3 picks, Mitch, or
five pitches.
Yeah, but I'm saying like as far as like super reliable, like I just think that like that's a guy that I would seriously take a look at because he doesn't blow you away by looking at like size or his pedigree or anything, but all he's done is pitch really well.
He's actually very similar to Cody Bolton in that, injuries and COVID have really screwed up his path, but he's got a very mature mix. Like I said, he's got 5 pitches. He really only uses 4 of them. The curveball he never throws, except it's like a show me pitch every once in a while, but I really, really like Thad Ward. I really do. I have him as my number 2 pitcher on the board. So, Josh, you wrote him down too. What do you think?
I did. I think all of that. The 2 seem in the mid to upper 80s with sync on it. I think that's good for PNC Park if you're looking at that sort of thing, but with a good slider as well. I mean, if you put him in the bullpen, he probably only needs those 2 pitches and then throws something else every once in a while. So I don't really care.
His changeup's pretty developed, so I would that's something you'd want to keep. And the slider is the only one that scouts had as potential to become a plus pitch. So I think,
and as long as that changeup is there and comes along a little bit when you're not blowing it by guys, that's something to keep an eye on. And we get so caught up in looking for these 6'6", 240 type hosses. Sometimes can you pitch? He looks like he can pitch, so he caught my eye.
I do like him. I really do. Good pull, everybody. I'm glad when we agree again because the consensus makes me. First of all, like I should just say, I trust these baseball minds here. Like so, like when Jim and Josh kind of independently, we all go off in our own corners and come back and pick like, one name that we all kind of saw at the same. To me, that's like affirmation. Like,
right. Yeah, it's a little reassuring that you're not like searching for something,
So I got one more pitcher here.
Okay.
Jaden Murray from Houston. He got traded by the Rays at the deadline last year in part of a 3-team deal. Ends up in Houston. 25 years old, right-hander, throws a fastball, changeup, slider. He's known as a strike thrower. 67% of his pitches find the strike zone, and he doesn't sacrifice the swing and miss for that. He's really been effective. 22 games with 1 relief appearance last year. He posted a 3.50 ERA and 108 innings pitched, 99 Ks and a whip of 121. If he's selected, he's not going to start, but he is a starter. So you would expect most of his velocity numbers to be able to go up a little bit. He already can hit 96, 97 on the gun. You would expect that to go up a little bit. The changeup and slider are very evolved. I like him a lot. So that's a guy, again, right-handed, but somebody that I would be really interested in taking a swing at as well.
Well, especially when you get into organizations like Houston or, if we're talking Houston or the Dodgers or whatever, guys can kind of get lost in the mix a little bit. I mean,
well, this would be a guy that Dewey Robinson knows really well. He literally only went to Houston in August. So it's just it's like they get kind of bumped down a little bit as soon as they enter an organization, just because, I mean, hey, these organizations do a good job. Yeah, absolutely.
So we said what we said about age. Does that, if this is a guy that you're saying he is a starter and he's 25, he'll be 26 next year. Is that anything that you pause at to say, okay, if he's going to be 26 and I'm trying to just put him in the bullpen for now, and then are you trying to stretch him out in AAA as a 27-year-old? Is there any pause there?
Personally, if I pick a guy up in the Roll 5 draft, I've given up on thinking he's going to be anything but a bullpen guy. I'm not picking up a starter in the Roll 5 draft.
Okay, you had mentioned he's a starter, and that's what kind of made me question that.
Well, I say that so that the stats are understandable. When I say that he only pitched 22 games and 108 innings, I want to make sure everybody understands that's stretched out over, going deep into ball games, and it's there if you really wanted to use it. But I don't even think the Pirates are at a point where they could bring in a Roll 5 player and insert him into their rotation. So
yeah, that's a tough ask. Let me just say this too about like when we talk about these ages, fair or not, accurate or not, this is just the way I look at it is like I tend to be a little bit more forgiving about ages on pitchers because I feel like as pitchers go and sometimes their development can be later, and I'm a little more harsh on it with the offensive side of things. So that's just how I approach it, and it's splitting hairs, but I am willing to give a little bit more leeway on the pitching side. So
fair.
As a Pirates fan, I've said this before, but as a Pirates fan, I don't know why anybody gives a crap about the ages of anybody. They're not going to keep them anyway. Until they're not like if they start when they're 27, who cares? So they'll be traded when they're 32. Like it doesn't matter at all. You're not keeping them until they're 37 anyway. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. Their prime years are just they're here. So what? Like it doesn't matter to me.
Any more development left in a 27-year-old? Typically, there could be. I just mean typically, but that's a good point though, as far as pitchers and the fact that some of them can actually figure things out later.
Let's start talking about hitters then with a 27-year-old to make Jim happy. So I have one. I do think this guy's got a good shot to get selected.
If you bring up Julio Franco right now, I'm leaving. So, although he could probably still hit about 260.
I actually just saw a clip of him
probably
hitting at a Dominican instructional league, and has that same swing, which I don't even know how you could do at his age anymore. And he was popping balls over one-armed.
Incredible.
Yeah, incredible. And there's all these 16-year-old kids in the prime of their life staring at him like, I can't believe that what he's doing right now.
That's awesome.
But the first guy, he just happens to be 27 years old. Jake Mangum from the New York Mets. I have him as the fourth best hitter available, and he'll be 27 by opening day. He's not 27 right now. He's drafted in the fourth round back in 2019. Any college kid that got drafted in 2019 is just screwed. There's just no other way about it.
Yeah, it kind of sucks for a lot of kids.
Yeah, and he struggled to stay healthy on top of that. The OPS has been okay, 760 for his career. Batting average rest for his career at 284. He doesn't strike out a ton. He draws a decent amount of walks. Plays pretty good defense in all the outfield spots. Not a lot of power there. Unless you believe doubles turn into homers, which, it hasn't happened for everybody named Hayes. I mean, everybody. And
nasty tweets are incoming.
If you want to cherry pick, in AAA last year in 148 plate appearances, he hit 333 OPS of 836. So good chance he's coming along. He's a switch hitter. Better average as a right-handed stick than a lefty. So the defense and the stick being a little bit capable, he's a guy you could see somebody taking a swing at and trying to stash as a utility type player, probably. What do you think?
Yeah, I saw him. I didn't put him on my list, but he was somebody that I considered. I don't know that he's probably a safer pick to actually give you a little production. But
I feel like he's very Badoo like. That's why I picked him. He's mature.
Yeah,
I felt like he could probably come in and help a team that really just was looking for lightning in a bottle from somebody. He's never going to get a chance as a Met. I'm sure they probably don't even care if he gets picked. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he's somebody that I identified.
It's their way of giving him an opportunity.
Yeah, it probably is, actually. But anyways, that's one guy. I have Matt Gorski on my list. I'm not going to regale you guys with my love affair with Matt Gorski. But no, I have him on the list because I want people to understand where I feel he falls in relation to the other hitters. And to me, I have him as like the third best hitter out there. So, Dominic Canzone from Arizona. He's an outfielder, 25 years old, left-hander. He was drafted in the 8th round back in 2019. Sound familiar?
A little bit.
He's performed every step of the way in the minor leagues. He's earned promotions like in the middle of seasons, and he spent the majority of his time in 2022 in AAA. So he's somebody that, he should be just about ready. But numbers don't lie. So let me give you the numbers because I was impressed by him. In 331 at-bats, Canzone hit 16 home runs with a 284 average and an OPS of 838. K rate's not horrible. He draws walks, plays all 3 outfield positions. If you add up all of his stops in 2022, he hit 22 home runs. And it's not really an outlier. His career OPS is 893. And he's displayed power at every stop. So
yeah, and the on base in AAA too was 349. So this is the guy that I had on my list too. And hey, I'm not kidding. Let's not overlook the fact that he played 26 games at first base in Reno this year. we got to say it.
The funny thing is, the last thing the Pirates need is another left-hander.
I know,
but that's the best that's out there is these lefties. So, again, I didn't come up with this list with a Pirates focus necessarily. It was just who I thought were the best bats out there.
Sure. Well, I actually did, and I'll double down on that in the fact that he's an Ohio State guy. Grew up near Cleveland, which means he's been out on the West Coast for a long time. Get him a little close to home. I believe in the human element of things too. I think that maybe he's a guy you take a shot on. What's the worst case scenario? You offer him back. He can go play with Cole Tucker again. But best case scenario, that all it does is give you. We've talked about this. You and I have talked about this before. You don't have a bunch of prospects to make sure that they all play. Sometimes you deal from that. And if you have a surplus of left-handed outfielders, then maybe, something goes if something clicks with this guy. Or maybe you just send him back. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's
I'm
what
interested
I did. The
in
reason
him.
I say that. Yeah, I'll say this. The reason I say that is because I kept looking through this list and saying left-handed, don't care. Left-handed, don't care. And then I was like, man, they're all left-handed. I have to start caring at some point. Is there anybody here?
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
I really tried to pay attention to it just because it's so ridiculously lopsided. Even when I was forgetting about it, I was making myself pay attention to it. So
I got one more.
Okay.
All right. And this is probably my this would be my, like, you really, really, really want to try as hard as you can to find somebody that can become a top-end talent. All right?
All right.
But I don't think he's there yet.
Malcolm New.
To me, he is my favorite hitter available. Ryan Ward, corner outfielder, second baseman for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's in Double-A Tulsa. He's 24 years old. He primarily plays left field. I know that other stuff's listed, but he's been in left field for the most part. He was selected in the 8th round of 2019. He's only 5'11", Jim. You talked about getting away from that stereotypical, prototypical, got to have the big beast guy.
Sure.
He's a lefty, as we've talked about multiple times, but he's displayed consistent power. In 2021, he had 439 at-bats and stroked 27 home runs in his high A season with an OPS of 876. Last year in Tulsa, 459 at-bats, 28 home runs, and an 805 OPS. That sounds pretty consistent to me. His issue is with many sluggers. He strikes out a ton.
How many? I'm curious because the guy I've got, that's his problem too. But how many?
In 2021, 118 times. In 2022, 116 times.
Okay.
Thing is, he doesn't walk all that often either. The power is more than real. It's tested. But to make his mark in MLB, he's obviously going to have to stop striking out, or the OPS is just going to crash. If you want a Pirates,
my guy's going to look like Stevie Wonder compared to him. So
if you want a Pirates spin on it, though, I see Jack Sawinski. And I know Jack Sawinski's power didn't really emerge until he got a little higher up in the San Diego system. But before making the leap to MLB, this is exactly where Jack Sawinski was. Double-A, doing this sort of thing, and came up and, he's pretty much a lock to be a starter next year in the Pittsburgh Pirates, major league roster, hitting home runs and striking out a ton. So there's no reason a guy like this can't do the same thing. I do like the kid and this potential. I wish that he could get the strikeouts under control. But I think with his frame, he's never going to be able to because he's always going to have to swing the way he does.
It's interesting. Like, this is kind of like the Achilles heel with a lot of these hitters, right? Is the high strikeout total. So let's let me just go ahead,
throw
Josh.
This in there. I didn't have anything on him. I saw Gary tweet about him, so I just left him alone, figuring I'd hear all about him. 25. That's a 25% K rate. So it's not, we're not talking Mason Martin.
Few are. That's why he's not going to get selected either. But
no. What I'm saying is 25% K rate is not. Right. It's not. We're not talking over 30 in AAA. You know what I mean? We're but still 25%.
We're also not talking AAA at all. Conspicuously, that's kind of the downside there. You don't know how he's going to do against that higher competition. And he's somebody that I could see taking a swing at if you really just had an extra spot. But he's nobody that you could just stick in your lineup every day and hope he's going to stick around. And if you put him on the bench, he's not going to do anything.
Not if you take Canzoni in the first round. Right.
So that's what I got. Jim, you said you got another guy.
I got one guy. It's probably it's too big of a risk, but the more I looked at him, I liked the kid. This Jose Ramos from the Dodgers. He's their number 8 prospect, right? Think about the Dodgers and all their riches, like number 8 prospect who just completed single A and hit 25 homers and 97 RBIs and had an OPS of 8. It was up in the 8s. Almost a 479 slugging percentage. Problem is with him, strikes out a ton, and I mean a ton. He had 159 strikeouts across single A. But he almost walked 60 times. So, like, to me, there's something there where, like, and he's 21 and he's getting passed up by a lot of hitters in their organization, right? So, I mean, there is some serious potential with that guy. He's an outfielder. I think he plays 2 different outfield spots. Like I said, like if the walks weren't there with those kind of strikeouts, but I mean, I think like that's a guy that like I couldn't not look away from whenever I was looking at who the Dodgers didn't protect, because I immediately went to the Dodgers and said, who didn't they protect? I want to know. It's like dating. You're like, when you're dating at first, you're like, they're too good. What's wrong with them? So that's what I was doing with some of these guys.
I mean,
36% K rate.
I know.
It was 169.
I know, man. It was 160. Okay, so like, but like, he walks a little. So I mean, I just think that like you can work with that, right? So, and he's kind of a baby.
340 on base. It was 818 was the OPS. I pulled it up while you were talking. So
not bad.
Yeah.
See, I mean, there are some nuggets out there every year, and I love doing this stuff. So pardon us for geeking out a little bit, but I love doing this stuff. And because Josh is on the show, we're of course going to have an extra long episode, because that's what always happens with Josh's episodes. So let's take a quick break. We come back, we'll do the quick hitters. All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Josh, Jim, Gary, and we are going to do some quick hitters because there has been a lot of little newsy things this week, and I just wanted to kind of start with some of them. And the first one I'm going to start with is this little impromptu, what was reported as a season ticket holder meeting that the Pirates threw was actually a meeting of people that had recently canceled their season tickets. It was only about 20 people. So this was, I think, for them to see why people are canceling their season tickets, because they're the only people that don't understand why somebody doesn't want to watch what they're putting on the field.
What could it possibly be?
Well, they had a lot of questions. They had a lot of questions, thrown at them. There were no reporters there, which has made some reporters rather salty. But to be honest, I'm never going to get on the team for wanting to communicate with their fan base. And I like that they're trying to find out what people are looking for, especially people that like just last year decided to get fed up. Okay, because if you're the Pirates, you just put on the field O'Neal Cruz, probably the most exciting player you've brought up here since McCutchen, I would say, or Marte, maybe. And you're probably asking yourself, okay, I'm showing you a little evidence here. Why now? You didn't cancel after 2020. You didn't cancel after 2021. Now you canceled. Why? And I like that. So, the few people that were there, they claimed to ask certain things. They claimed that certain things were said. I don't think we have any kind of verification for that. I don't know the people personally, so I can't sit here and tell you they're trustworthy. But I find it hard to believe that Travis Williams stood up there and straight up said that they wanted to win 83 games next year. That seems oddly specific. I do believe that they said they want to win and get better next year. I've heard Ben Cherington say that 100 times over now. We've even heard him with the G-Man Choi acquisition say that he wants to get better. This is the first move, meaning like there's going to be more. Overall, what did you guys think of that whole event? Is this something that the Pirates stepped in it a little bit, or did you like it? And Jim, I'll let you start because you're usually really, really, I think, critical of their communication. I would think this would be something you would like that they're trying to do. but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I tend to. I'm a big communication guy, so like, and kind of saying what needs to be said. And that's just my Pittsburgh upbringing, I suppose. But I like that they did it. I think it's a big miss not to have someone there that can kind of from the media just to be able to correctly kind of disseminate information that came out of it, because this is what ends up happening, right? You get a bunch of amateurs that are desperate to be known for pirate stuff, and they start saying things that might not even be accurate. So I don't have a problem with them doing it. I just don't know why you wouldn't invite the media. I think it would be looked at as a good thing, and then you can accurately get out what was there and what was said.
Yeah, because there's no reason that you can't invite the media and just tell them, you're not here to ask questions. This is for the fans. We want to answer their questions. We just want you here to record it. That's all.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be like you're opening the floor to the media to then start questioning, things. And, no one knows who Travis Williams is anyway. So like, we're not, there's not some big loss on that end. I just think that's the part that was missed. And that's the only issue I had with it.
I mean, but Josh, if you want to talk about the Pirates taking something seriously, they're taking it seriously when Ben Cherington, Derek Shelton, Travis Williams, and Greg Brown are all in the same room to talk to people. They're taking it seriously. I mean, so it feels like they maybe fell a little short not inviting a media member just to document it. Or do you think it's better that they just kept it behind a curtain?
I don't know if I'd comment whether it's better or worse. I think my angle with this is I wonder if in their thought process, not saying this was successful or not, but could it be in their thought process to say, well, if we invite the media, then everybody sitting there says you're going to say whatever you want them to write anyway. So do you think that there's a level of, hey, if we can be in this room together, can we create some sort of transparency between me and you where we're not saying what we want written down right now. Let's just talk. This is me and you. We're not getting anyone else involved. And I don't know if that lands. I don't know if I still trust you. You're still going to just try to get me to buy tickets. But at the same time, if that's their thought process, because if you're on their side of things, you're looking for something to say, how do we get some sort of, for lack of a better word, intimacy with some of our fans that it's not just a show today.
I mean, that word was going through my head too, intimacy, that and fodder, because I think of that every time you talk now. But intimacy was going through my head at the same time, because I think that's a great point you made. Maybe they didn't want anybody putting on a show, if that makes sense.
It's a fair observation.
Yeah, maybe it was more like, for instance, Bob Nutting makes a public appearance and somebody wears a smarmy t-shirt and takes a picture with him and turns it into a meme. Whereas had he just met that guy in the luxury box and, there's no picture taken, they probably have a nice conversation and that's it, right? So maybe they didn't want any grandstanding. And I could see that being, one guy has a meltdown on Ben Cherington and that's the entire story that comes out of it. Maybe that's not what they wanted the takeaway to be.
That's true.
So that's a good point by you. But I take that as an initial comment because either way, what came out of it was, that quote from Travis Williams that I don't think anybody can verify. And I'm not calling you a liar, whoever you are who said that, because honestly, it may have been said. We can't verify it, so I'm not going to run with it like it's gospel. What we can say is that Ben Cherington has repeatedly said he wants to get better next year. that contrasts with punt. You know, we hear that a lot too. G-Man Choi is a real Major League Baseball player that they brought in to play first base. That's better than they did last year. I like that, at least as far as like moving the ball forward. We'll obviously see what else they did. We've already talked about not having any lefties on the roster. We don't have any catchers right now besides Ollie Sanchez. Obviously, they have work to do. How do you feel about Ben Cherington right now? We're entering our 4th year. Has your opinion changed? Are you just as excited? Do you like the plan? Where are you at, Josh? I mean, I listened to your show. You're very even-keeled. You don't tend to like have any real hard opinions on anything. But as just, I mean, you know what I mean? Like you tend to like see things from both sides. That's why we like you so much, honestly, because that's the way we think too. But just shut all that off and be a fan. What do you see? Do you like it?
Okay, shut it all off and be a fan. In Pittsburgh, he sucks. We got to win games. I don't want to do a shameless plug here, but I encourage anyone who really wants to know my detailed answer to this to go back and watch our show from the 2 shows ago. World Series over. Welcome to the off season. I had a lot of numbers that I had written down. Jake wasn't there that week, so I had the floor. So I went on it. And I got to say that when you look things up, first off, I hate doing it because I think that people need to be held accountable, and Cherington himself says we need to execute. 2020 was not ideal. That's exactly when he took over. He didn't have much of a visual on his players in a 60-game season, and he had to just start moving on things. But I looked back at the Astros rebuild. I looked back at where Baltimore just landed this year. Baltimore's rebuild, their 2022 season, technically is the Pirates' 2024 season. I expected this thing at the beginning to go quicker than that. But when you look at reality, Cleveland did this many years ago, and their front office hasn't changed in over 10 years. They've got promotions, but the names are still all the same. And, I mean, I'm telling you, it's 4 years of 90-plus losing for most of those teams. It's not 3. And so if this season is bad, it still doesn't, like, I might be more upset about it, but it still really doesn't change that they could still be on track. And I expected it to be a little different. I expected 23 to be what Baltimore just experienced. But the facts and the track record of other teams who are doing what they did with this massive overhaul, everybody wants to say the rebuild started back in 2016. It didn't. Cherington took over in 2020. It's a brand new rebuild. You can't do that. Like it's a different team.
Yeah, but that's for a Yark and James Littleton fight down the road. We'll get into that conversation next week.
So the thing for me is obviously I want it to be better. We want our team to be good, flat out.
Yeah.
But I'm just not ready to say it's a failure yet when you have to let it work its course. Houston's shown that when it works its course, it can be good. Now, granted, they spend a lot more money, but Cleveland's been at this for 10 years. If they take a step back at this point, it's barely a step back.
True. Jim, what do you think, man? Where are you at with Ben Cherington? We're entering year 4.
Well, everything that Josh says makes sense about the timeline, about where other teams did it, how they did it, how long, and that's fine. But the 2 biggest things for me are I don't mind. Well, I do mind waiting.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't if it meant what it meant to, the Astros, or seemingly the path that Baltimore is on right now, even. But I need to then be able to look in the system and go, where are the impact players that are going to do those things? And so then I start getting a little worried because I think you do need a couple absolute studs, stars to do it. I think so. Then I worry because I don't know that I see that lining up with what Houston did. And so O'Neal Cruz is such a big wild card right now. I hate to put so much on this kid, but let's be realistic. I mean, we need him to be the guy. And I think he could be. I just worry that I don't see enough of that impact talent. I think there's good depth in the organization. I wasn't blown away by a lot of the production last year in the minors. So that's where I'm at. It worries me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say I feel like it's still on track. I was never really wowed by the hire to begin with. He's not the guy that I wanted. I guess for me, I didn't give him credit for the championship because he did it on a team that could spend to the moon and back. And I didn't see it as the same kind of situation he would be entering here. And I think that's I think that's kind of playing out. I think he's learning on the job a little bit, which is why I think maybe the system hasn't come along as quickly as some of us wanted it to. And it's not translating to the majors as quickly because he has probably discounted how long it was going to take some of these talents to develop. And losing a lot of 2020 didn't help. You know, I think that really did hurt that process a little bit. You might be talking about somebody like Nick Gonzalez being ready now or Quinn Priester being ready now, instead of ready sometime this season. So there is a little bit of a difference there. All in all, I'm relatively satisfied. I guess my major thing with Ben Cherington is I don't think it had to be this painful on the way there. That's all. I don't think you need to leave holes the way that they have, and I don't think you need to constantly try to patch them with freebies. I think you can go out and get some Major League Baseball players at a really economical price, fill your roster out, not embarrass the fans, give your kids a little bit of a crutch when they do get here of Major League experience. So I think that's some of the mistakes that I've seen. And what they've done to the pitching staff over the course, I think it's regulating now. I think we'll see the dividends this year. But what they did to the pitching staff in the last 3 years, to me, was just detrimental to the cause, to be honest with you. So,
well, the only other thing I was going to add is just from what has always struck me is that, and you touched on it briefly, is just like that it had to be this bad to do what you wanted to do. And it's a very differing look at things when they want to have things celebrating the history of the Pirates with their inductions of players and celebrating the past, and you're willing to just totally toss seasons in the toilet.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're trying to celebrate those things, and it's just something simple as like I think the Pirates next year can fall under 500 as a franchise for wins and losses for their whole organizational history. And that stuff in a sport where numbers matter and used to matter a lot, that should matter. And it's almost like we view, or teams now view these, and especially like the Pirates, as just totally disposable seasons.
Well, kind of to bring it back,
I just hate that.
Kind of to bring it back full circle. There they are having a meeting with ex-season ticket holders, asking, "Why did you quit?" And the answer is painfully obvious. That's to me the funniest thing of the whole thing. The answer is right in front of you. If last year you had gotten Quintana and another qualified starting pitcher, and bolstered the bullpen a little bit and got more than just Roberto Perez to play catcher and nobody else, knowing what your depth was like in the minors, you probably have a better season. You probably don't lose 100 games. You ain't going to win 100 either, but you maybe don't embarrass yourselves. You know, and I'm sorry the draft pick ain't worth it, especially with the lottery. It's just that stuff's gone now. So, I mean, there's a lot of, and playing with O'Neal Cruz, bring him up. Like, you know, next year, bring Endy up. Just forget about all that crap and play. Try to win. I think that's all that we're saying is try to win. And that's the thing that you don't see. That's what's frustrating. But we got to end the show at some point.
The Major League roster for
slapped.
sure has the Major League roster for sure has been ignored to a point where it didn't have to be.
Absolutely. So, hey, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. This show will be the last one that airs before Thanksgiving. We will be recording another one before Thanksgiving, though, probably, Jim. So,
yep.
But this one will be the last one that airs before then. So, happy Turkey Day, everybody. Don't fight over politics. Don't talk about them.
Nope.
Just sit there and eat your turkey and your stuffing and shut the F up.
Or your honey baked ham.
Honey baked ham?
Yes.
Oh, Jim.
Hey, listen, I've already started the mac and cheese debate.
Did.
We might have to finish that on air. I don't know later, another show. But
I think that's a good idea. But we should thank Josh Booth for joining us. Josh, thanks a lot, man. It's always a good time when you're on the show, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Glad I could make you run long.
And man, make sure you check out his show. Between this and his show, you've got over 2.5 hours of Pirates content. So go ahead and check it out. It's Bridge to Buctober. You can find it on YouTube or Spotify or anywhere that you find this show. Check it out. Give him a follow on Twitter too. Bridge to Buctober, and good stuff. Everybody else, I think that's it. Let's let Ben take it away, huh?
Let's get out of here.